Good afternoon, everyone. We're Group 1 and my name is Helena Frei. I'm here today with...
I am Janno Baloyo.
I am Jouffer Lapore.
I am Luis Trasmonte.
And we're all here today to discuss about stocks, sauces, and soups. So first, stocks. A stock may be defined as a clear, thin liquid flavored by soluble substances extracted from meat, poultry, fish, and their bones, and from vegetables and seasonings. Our objective in preparing stocks is to select the proper ingredients and to extract the flavors we want. In other words, to combine the correct ingredients with the correct procedure. The importance of stocks in the kitchen is indicated by the French word for stock, fond, meaning foundation or base. In the classical cuisine, the ability to prepare good stocks is the most basic of all skills because so much of the work of the entire kitchen depends on them. A good stock is the foundation of soups, sauces, and most braised foods and stews. So stocks and sauces are never served by themselves but are components of many other preparations. The picture below is an example of a stock. Here are the ingredients for stocks, composed of bones, meat, mirepoix, acid products, scraps and leftovers, and seasonings and spices. Bones are the major ingredient of stocks, except water, of course. Most of the flavor and body of stocks are derived from the bones of beef, veal, chicken, fish, and occasionally lamb, pork, and ham. Vegetable stocks is an exemption, of course, because they draw their flavor entirely from vegetables. The kind of bones used determine the kind of stock. So chicken stock, of course, is made from chicken bones. White stock is made from beef or veal. Brown stock is made from beef or veal too. And fish stock is made from fish bones or trimmings after filleting. And lamb, game, turkey, and other stocks have specialized uses. So meat, because of its cost, meat is rarely used in stock making anymore, with the exception of chicken hearts and gizzards, which are often used in chicken stock. So occasionally, a broth is produced as a result of simmering meat or poultry, as when fowl is cooked for dishes like creamed chicken. Next is mirepoix. Aromatic vegetables or mirepoix is the second most important contributors of flavor to stocks. So mirepoix is a combination of onions, carrots, and celery. It is a basic flavoring preparation used in all areas of cooking, not just for flavoring stocks, but also for sauces, soups, meats, poultry, fish, and vegetables. Chop the vegetables coarsely into pieces of a relatively uniform size. As mirepoix is rarely served, it is not usually necessary to cut it cleanly. A white mirepoix, in which parsnips are substituted for carrots, is used when it is necessary to keep the stock as colorless as possible. So here is an example. At our left is a normal mirepoix, while the picture on the right is a white mirepoix. Next is acid products. So acid helps dissolve connective tissues. Thus, they are sometimes used in stock making to extract flavor and body from bones. Tomato products contribute flavor and some acids to brown stocks, but they are not used for white stocks because they would give an undesirable color. Wine is occasionally used, especially for fish stocks. Its flavor contribution is probably more important than its acidity. Next is scraps and leftovers. In some kitchens, a stock pot is kept going all day and scraps are constantly being thrown in. This may or may not be a good idea. Scraps may be used in stocks if they are clean, wholesome, and appropriate to stock being made. So if done correctly, stock making is a good way of utilizing trimmings that would otherwise be thrown out. Next is seasoning and spices. Salt is usually not added when making stocks because stocks are never used as is but are reduced, concentrated, and combined with other ingredients. Herbs and spices should be used only lightly and they should never dominate a stock or have a pronounced flavor. So as under the seasonings and spices are the sachet de paix. Herbs and spices are usually tied in a cheesecloth bag called sachet de paix. So here it is. You just cut the vegetables, put it in a cheesecloth bag, and tied to the pot. Next is a bouquet garni. It is an assortment of fresh herbs and aromatic ingredients tied in a bundle with a string, as the picture is shown. So the following seasons are commonly used for stocks: thyme, parsley stems, bay leaves, cloves, peppercorns, and garlic. In addition to the onions in the mirepoix, an onion brulee, French for burnt onion, is sometimes added to the brown stock to give it color as well as flavor. Another form of onion for flavoring is the onion piqué. It is used not so much for stocks but for soups and sauces. So to prepare, I stick a bay leaf to a whole peeled onion with a whole clove. So here is an onion piqué and here is an onion brulee. Next is the ingredient proportions in making the stocks. The proportions in table 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 8.5, and vegetable stocks are basic, effective, and widely used, but using them is not an ironclad rule. Nearly every chef uses some variations, so many cooks use ratios to help them remember the basic proportions as follows. Bones 80%, mirepoix 10%, water 100%. And here on the 5 tables are the proportions. So to make 4 liters, that's what you need, and so on. Next is the procedures and preparations. Blanching bones. Many proteins dissolve in cold water but solidify into small particles or into froth or scum when heated. It is these particles that make a stock cloudy. The purpose of blanching bones is to rid them of some of the impurities that cause cloudiness. So the procedure for blanching bones is to rinse bones in cold water. This washes off blood and other impurities from the surface. It is especially important if the bones are not strictly fresh. Next step is to place the bones in a stock pot or steam-jacketed kettle and cover with cold water. Impurities dissolve more readily in cold water. Hot water retards extraction. Third is to bring the water to a boil. As the water heats, impurities solidify or coagulate and rise to the surface as scum. Fourth is to drain the bones and rinse them well. The bones are now ready for the stock pot. Next is procedures in preparing white stock. So here is all the steps in preparing a white stock. First, you need to cut the bones into pieces, rinse the bones in cold water, place the bones in a stock pot, bring to a boil, add the mirepoix. Do not let the stock boil, but keep it at a low simmer. Skim to the surface as often as necessarily. Then keep the water level above the bones. Simmer for recommended length of time. For beef bones, 8 to 10 hours. For veal bones, 6 to 8 hours. For chicken bones, 3 to 4 hours. And for fish bones, 30 to 45 minutes. Next is to skim the surface and strain off the stock using a china cup lined with several layers of cheesecloth, and to cool the stock as quickly as possible. When cooled, refrigerate the stock in covered containers. So here, as you can see, is the step-by-step procedure. So white stocks is a good white stock has rich, full flavor, good body, clarity, and little or no color. Chicken stocks may have a light yellow color. So here in the picture below is an example of a white stock. And here is a recipe of a basic white stock. So as you can see, review the instructions for stock preparation, which was the slide before this. And here is the setup for cooling stocks in a cold water bath. As you can see, this is the stock pot and cold water here and blocks. Next is procedure in making brown stocks. So the difference between brown stocks and white stocks is that the bones and mirepoix are browned for the brown stock. This causes a few complications, as you will see. Otherwise, the procedure is essentially the same. A second method for browning the mirepoix is given in the alternative procedure. So procedures are to cut the bones into pieces, do not wash or blanch the bones, place the bones in a roasting pan in one layer and brown in a hot oven. When the bones are well browned, remove them from the pan and place them in a stock pot. Drain and reserve the fat from the roasting pan. While the stock is getting started, place the mirepoix in the roasting pan with some of the reserved fat and brown the vegetables as well in the oven. Add the tomato product to the mirepoix and continue browning. When the water in the stock pot comes to a simmer, skim and continue for a white stock. Add the browned vegetables and tomato product to the stock pot and continue as for white stock. As you can see in the picture below is an example of a brown stock. Next is preparing fish stocks. A standard fish stock is made the same way as a white stock. This type of stock is useful for soups and similar seafood preparations. For sauces, chefs usually prefer more flavorful fish stocks called a fumet. A fish fumet is made by first sweating the bones in a mirepoix in fat, then white wine is added to the glaze, and finally water is added and the fumet finish in the normal manner. So this is the ingredients and the procedure for fish stock, and this is the ingredients and procedure for the fish fumet. Next is preparing vegetable stocks. Vegetable stocks made without animal products play an important role in vegetarian cooking and are also used in more traditional kitchens in response to customers' requests for light, healthful dishes. The basic ingredients for vegetable stocks are as follows here, and this is the procedure. Next will be remoulade and other stock-related preparations. Remoulade is a stock made from bones that were already used once to make a stock. The literal meaning of the French term is re-wetting, because not all possible flavor and gelatin is extracted from the bones when making a stock. Making a remoulade allows the chef to extract a little more value from the bones. A remoulade can be used for soups, for braised dishes, and in place of water for making stocks. It can also be reduced to a glaze and used for enriching sauces, soups, and braising liquids. So here is the procedure to make a remoulade. Discard the mirepoix and herb sachet from draining and add a finished stock. Add fresh mirepoix and sachet to the bones, cover with fresh cold water, and simmer for about 4 hours. Drain and cool as for regular stock. So these are the other stock-related preparations. The core bouillon, the basic Japanese stock called dashi, and the broth and jus, which will be discussed later on. So next is reduction and glazes. Stocks are concentrated by boiling or simmering them to evaporate part of the water. This is called making a reduction or reducing. Reduction is an important technique in sauce making and in many other areas of cooking because it produces a more flavorful product by concentrating it. A reduced stock has also more body because gelatin is concentrated. A glaze, or in French, glaze, is a stock reduced until it coats the back of a spoon. It is so concentrated, reduced by 3/4 or more, that it is solid and rubbery when refrigerated. Glazes are used as flavorings in sauce making and in some meat, poultry, fish, and vegetable preparations. These are the 3 kinds of glazes. Meat glaze, or glace de Bon, made from brown stock, or chicken glaze, glace de voile, made from chicken stock, or fish glaze, glace de poisson, made from fish stock. Next is convenience basis. The cost, both in time and materials of making stocks in modern kitchens has led to the widespread use of concentrated convenience products known as bases. These are diluted with water to make flavorful liquids similar to stocks. So glazes can be considered bases, and in fact, they are the original bases used long before today's manufacturers started producing convenience products. So using bases. Bases can be improved by simmering the diluted or made-up product for a short time with some mirepoix, a sachet, and a few bones or meat trimmings if possible. Bases are also added to stocks to supplement them when only a small quantity of stock is on hand. Bases are sometimes added to weak stocks to give them more flavor. Using bases requires taste and judgment just as other areas of cookery do. So here on the pictures below are some examples of convenience bases and glazes. Next is sauces. My groupmate, Mr. Jouffer Lapore, will discuss sauces.
Sauces. Like stocks, sauces have lost some of the importance they once had in commercial kitchens, except, of course, in the best restaurants serving what may be considered luxury cuisine. Many chefs believe good sauces are the pinnacle of all cooking, both in the skill they require and in the interest and excitement they can give to the food. Very often, the most memorable part of a really fine meal is the sauce that enhances the meat or fish. A sauce works like a seasoning. It enhances and accents the flavor of the food. It should not dominate or hide the food. A good cook knows that sauces are as valuable as salt and pepper. The function of sauces as is defined as a flavorful liquid, usually thickened, used to season, flavor, and enhance other foods. A sauce adds the following qualities to the food: moistness, flavor, richness, appearance, or the color and shine, interest, and appetite appeal. The structure of sauces. The major sauces we consider here are made of three kinds of ingredients: a liquid, the body of the sauce; second, a thickening agent; third, additional seasoning and flavoring ingredients. To understand sauce making, you must first learn how to prepare these components and then how to combine them into finished sauces. Liquid. A liquid ingredient provides the body or base of most sauces. Most classic sauces are built on one of five liquids or bases. The resulting sauces are called leading sauces or mother sauces. White stock or chicken, veal or fish for velouté sauces, brown stock for brown sauce or espagnole, milk for bechamel, tomato plus stock for tomato sauce, clarified butter for hollandaise. The most frequently used sauces are based on stock. Thickening agents. A sauce must be thick enough to cling lightly to the food, otherwise it will just run off and lie in a puddle on the plate. This doesn't mean it should be heavy and pasty. Chefs use the term nappe from the French napper, meaning to top, to describe the texture of a sauce that has the right texture to coat foods. Starches are still the most commonly used thickening agents, although they are used less often than in the past. We discuss starches and other thickening agents in detail below. Other flavoring ingredients. Although the liquid that makes up the bulk of the sauce provides the basic flavor, other ingredients are added to make variations on the basic themes and to give a finished character to the sauces. Adding specified flavorings ingredients to basic sauces is the key to the catalog of classic sauces. Most of the hundreds of sauces listed in the standard repertoire are made by adding one or more flavoring ingredients to one of the five basic sauces or leading sauces, as in all of cooking, sauce making. Roux is a cooked mixture of equal parts by weight of fat and flour. Correct amounts of fat and flour equal parts by weight are important to a good roux. There must be enough fat to coat all the starch granules, but not too much. In fact, Escoffier called for even less fat than our standard proportions, 8 parts fat to 9 parts flour. A good roux is stiff, not runny or pourable. A roux with too much fat is called a slack roux. Excess fat increases the cost of the roux unnecessarily. The excess fat rises to the top of the sauce, where it either is skimmed off or makes the sauce look greasy. Roux ingredients. Fat. The cooking fats employed for making roux are as follows. First is the clarified butter. It is preferred for the finest sauces because of its flavor. The butter is clarified because the moisture content of whole butter tends to gelatinize some of the starch and makes the roux hard to work. Second is the margin. It is widely used in place of butter because of its lower cost. However, its flavor is inferior to butter, so it does not make as fine a sauce. The quality of margin varies from brand to brand. Third is animal fats, such as chicken fat, beef drippings, and lard, are used when their flavor is appropriate to the sauce. When properly used, animal fats can enhance the flavor of a sauce. Vegetable oil and shortening can be used for roux, but because they add no flavor, they are not preferred. Flour. Starches as thickeners. Starches are the most common and most useful thickeners for sauce making. Flour is the principal starch used. Others available to the chef include cornstarch, arrowroot, waxy maize, instant or pre-gelatinized starch, breadcrumbs, and other vegetable and grain products, like potato starch and rice flour. Starch is thickened by gelatinizing, which is the process by which starch granules absorb water and swell to many times their original size. Starch granules must be separated before heating in liquid to avoid lumping. Starch granules are separated in two ways, mixing the starch with fat or mixing the starch with a cold liquid. The thickening power of flour depends in part on its starch content. Bread flour has less starch and more protein. Cake flour. Flour is sometimes browned dry in the oven for use in brown roux. A heavily browned flour has only one-third the thickening power of unbrowned flour. Preparing roux. Roux must be cooked so the finished sauce does not have the raw, starchy taste of flour. The three kinds of roux differ in how much they are cooked. The white roux is cooked for just a few minutes, just enough to cook out the raw taste. Cooking is stopped as soon as the roux has a frothy, chalky, slightly gritty appearance before it has begun to color. White roux is used for bechamel and other white sauces based on milk. White roux is actually a pale yellow because it is made from butter and usually unbleached flour. Blonde roux or pale roux is cooked a little longer just until the roux begins to change to a slightly darker color. Cooking must then be stopped. Blonde roux is used for velouté or sauces based on white stocks. The sauces have a pale ivory color. Brown roux is cooked until it takes on a light brown color and a nutty aroma. Cooking must take place over low heat so the roux browns evenly without scorching. A heavily browned roux has only about one-third the thickening power of white roux, but it is contributed flavor and color to brown sauces. Operations that depend on roux-based sauces and soups generally make quantities of roux in bulk and keep it available throughout the production period for thickening sauces. If you don't make the batches of roux as part of the mise en place, you can also make it as part of the production process for an individual sauce. Basic procedure for making all roux. First is to melt the fat. Second is to add the correct amount of flour and stir until fat and flour are thoroughly mixed. The third one is to cook the required degrees for white, blonde, or brown roux. Cooking is done in a saucepan on top of the stove, and the roux is stirred for even cooking. Use low heat for brown roux, moderate heat for white or blonde roux. Large quantities may be baked in an oven. Some restaurants make up batches large enough to last for several days or a week. Finishing techniques. Remember that the three basic elements of a finished sauce are a liquid, a thickening agent, and additional seasoning and flavoring ingredients. Sauces may be modified or added to in a great many ways. Among these methods are a number of basic techniques used over and over for making sauces. Reduction. Using reduction to concentrate basic flavors. If we simmer a sauce for a long time, some of the water evaporates. The sauce becomes more concentrated and the resulting product is more flavorful. This is the same technique used when making glazes from stocks. Some reduction takes place in nearly all sauces, depending on how long they are simmered. Second is using reduction to adjust texture. Concentrating a sauce by reduction also thickens it because only the water evaporates, not the roux or other solids. A skilled sous chef uses both reduction and dilution to give a sauce the precise texture sought. If a sauce is too thin, it may be simmered until it reaches desired thickness, or the chef may add a large quantity of stock or other liquid to a thickened sauce to thin it out greatly, then simmer it again until it is reduced to just the right consistency. By doing this, the chef also gives more flavor to the sauce. Straining. If you have learned how to use a roux properly, you should be able to make a smooth, lump-free sauce. However, to bring a sauce's texture to perfection, to create the velvety smoothness that is important to a good sauce, straining is necessary. Even a slight graininess that you can see can still be felt on your tongue. Straining through a china cup lined with several layers of cheesecloth is effective. Straining is usually done before final seasoning. Deglazing. To deglaze means to swirl a liquid in a sauté soup pan or other pan to dissolve cooked particles of food remaining on the bottom. A liquid such as a wine or stock is used to deglaze a sauté pan and then is reduced by 1/2 or 3/4. This reduction, which with the added flavor of the pan drippings, is then added to the sauce served with the item. Enriching with butter and cream. Liaison. In addition to being a thickening agent, a liaison of egg yolks and cream is used to finish a sauce by giving it extra richness and smoothness. Heavy cream has long been used to give flavor and richness to sauces. The most obvious example is adding cream to basic bechamel sauce to make cream sauce. Third is butter. A useful enriching technique both in classical and in modern cooking is called finishing with butter or monte au beurre. To finish a sauce with butter, simply add a few pieces of softened butter to the hot sauce and swirl them in until melted. The sauce should then be served immediately. If it is allowed to stand, the butter may separate. Finishing a sauce with butter gives it a little extra shine and smoothness, as well as adding to it the rich, fresh taste of raw butter. Seasoning. Whether or not a sauce is to be given a final enrichment of liaison, cream, or butter, it must be checked carefully for seasonings before serving. Remember that the last step in any recipe, whether written or not, adjust the seasonings.
Sauce families are composed of two types, leading sauce and small sauce. So leading sauce is liquid plus a thickening agent. Small sauce is leading sauce plus additional flavorings. We have talked about the 5 basic liquids for sauces: milk, white stock, brown stock, tomato puree, plus stock, and clarified butter. From these, we get our 5 leading sauces, also known as grand sauces or better known as mother sauces. As you can see in chart 8.1 is the leading sauces. So, bechamel sauce is composed of milk and white roux. Veloute is composed of white stock plus white or blonde roux. Brown sauce or espagnole is composed of brown stock or plus brown roux. Tomato sauce is composed of tomato plus stock and optional roux. Hollandaise sauce is composed of butter plus egg yolks. To these 5 sauces, we add one more, which is the fonlier, meaning thickened stock. It is sometimes used in place of espagnole. So fonlier is composed of brown stock plus arrowroot or cornstarch. As you can see, these are the 5 mother sauces, which is very, very important in sauce making. Here we have bechamel, which is the base for the sauces cream, cheddar, mornay, Roquefort, and Soubise, and many more. Here we have espagnole, which is the base for Robert, demi-glace, bordelaise, chasseur, and many more. Hollandaise is the base for Bernaise, Mousseline, Maltaise, and many more. Tomato is the base for Milanese, Creole, Provençal, Portuguese, and many more. Veloute is the base for Supreme, Allemande, Normande, Vin Blanc, and Estragon. Small sauces. As discussed earlier, small sauces are composed of a leading sauce and additional flavorings. The major leading sauces, bechamel, fish veloutes, and espagnole, are rarely used by themselves as sauces. They are more important as the basis for other sauces called small sauces. Tomato sauce and hollandaise are used as they are, but they too are important as basis for small sauces. First, let's look at the table for small sauces. Chart 8.2 discusses the small sauces. Again, small sauces is composed of a basic ingredient and a leading sauce. But most small sauces are composed of also a secondary sauce. As you can see here, the 6 small sauces are composed of milk and bechamel. But the 4 here is composed of a basic ingredient, a leading sauce, a secondary sauce, which is white veal stock, veal veloute, and allemande, and so on. Here we have the charts for brown sauces, red sauces, and butter sauces. So small sauces, secondary leading white sauces. These are 3 sauces, Allemande, Supreme, and white wine, are rarely finished sauces like other small sauces. but they are used so often to build other sauces that they rate a special category. The important thing is to understand how the sauces are derived. Next is demi-glace. Demi-glace is defined as half brown plus half brown stock, reduced by half. Most chefs prefer demi-glace to Espagnole as a base for small sauces because of its more concentrated and more fully developed flavor. Small sauces listed twice. So as you can see here, let's go back to the table. The small sauce mushroom is listed here twice. This is because the mushroom here has a basic ingredient of a chicken stock and the mushroom here has the basic ingredient of a fish stock. Next is Hollandaise and Béarnaise. These are essentially two variations of the same kind of sauce with different flavorings, but each has its own small family of sauces. Other sauces. As usual, not everything fits into one package. Beyond the 5 major sauce families are a number of preparations you don't follow these basic patterns. These preparations include these groups. First is simple and compound butters, including simple but brown butter as well as butter combined with flavorings. Next is pan gravies, or sauces made with the pan drippings of the meat or poultry they are served with. Next is miscellaneous hot sauces, which are not made like any of the 5 basic sauces. These include such items such as raisin sauce for ham and sour cream sauce. Next is miscellaneous cold sauces. Include not only sauces for meat like Cumberland sauce and horseradish sauce, but also vinaigrettes, mayonnaise, and other variations. Lastly is the modern sauces. First we have broth and jus. Broth was cooked not with bones but with the meat itself, having it a more stronger and richer flavor, while a jus is a sauce made from the pan drippings, usually from a roast. Next is purees. Purees have long been used as sauces. Tomato sauce is a classic example. However, nearly any vegetable can be pureed and used as a sauce, provided it's flavorful, properly seasoned, and of an appropriate consistency or thickness. Cream reductions. A reduced cream sauce is a mixture of reduced cream and a concentrated, flavorful stock. Here are the examples at the side. Next is salsas, relishes, and chutneys. Salsa is the Spanish and Italian word for sauce, so the word refers to many types of preparations, both raw and cooked. The word salsa usually refers to a mixture of raw or cooked, chopped vegetables, herbs, and occasionally fruits. So the first picture shows a picture of salsa. A relish is a mixture of chopped vegetables and sometimes fruit, at least one of which is pickled in vinegar or a salt solution. By this definition, a salsa may be considered a type of relish, especially if it contains an acid such as vinegar or citrus juice. The picture at the center is an example of a relish. The word chutney originated in India, where it refers to several types of spicy condiments or relishes, including strongly spiced sweet and sour cooked fruit or vegetables, as well as raw or partially cooked mixtures of chopped herbs or vegetables, also spicy and often containing chilies. So at the third picture is an example of a chutney. Next is Asian sauces. Asia is a huge continent and it would take years of study to become familiar with all of its varied cooking traditions. Incidentally, Chinese cuisines have relatively few standalone sauces. Sauces in stir-fried dishes, for example, are made as part of cooking process by adding liquids and thickeners to the meat and vegetables as they cook. Ready-made condiments such as oyster sauce and hoisin sauce are also used. Unless the cook is careful, mixing Asian-style sauces with Western dishes can have a strange result. Pictures below are examples of Asian sauces. Lastly is the flavored oils. Flavored oils make a light, interesting alternative to vinaigrettes and other sauces when used to dress a wide variety of dishes. They are especially suitable for simple, steamed, sautéed, or grilled items, but they can be used with cold foods as well. When used as a sauce, the oil is usually drizzled around or sometimes over the item on the plate. A tablespoon or 50 ml or so per portion is often enough. The simplest way to flavor an oil is simply to put some of the flavoring ingredients in the oil and let it stand until the oil has taken enough of the flavor. So the three of the pictures below are examples of flavored oils. Next, we have soups, which will be discussed by my groupmates, Mr. Janno Baloyo and Mr. Luis Trasmonte.
So soups. What is soups? Soup, according to the dictionary, it is a liquid food derived from meat, poultry, fish, or vegetables. The popularity of soups today may be due to increased nutrition consciousness, to a desire for simpler or lighter meals, or to an increased appreciation of how appetizing and satisfying soups can be. The soups can be divided into three basic categories. First one is clear, then thick soups, special soups that don't fit the first two categories. Most of these soups, no matter what their final ingredients may be, are based on stock. Thus, the quality of the soup depends on the stock. Next slide. So, Mr. Luis Trasmonte, we discussed the clear soups.
So for the clear soups, first is broths. So the difference between a broth and a stock is that a broth is made by simmering meat and vegetables, while a stock is made by simmering bones and vegetables. Because of this difference, a well-made stock is generally richer in gelatin content than a broth, because gelatin is derived from cartilage and connective tissue. A broth, on the other hand, usually has a more pronounced flavor of meat or poultry than a stock. A more neutral flavor is desired in a stock, which is used as the base for many sauces as well as soups. A broth, on the other hand, is an excellent choice as the base of a soup when a distinct meat flavor is desired. Broths can be served as is, with only seasoning and perhaps a light garnish added. Like stock, broth can be made with water. For especially rich, flavorful broths, use stock in place of water in the broth recipe. So consomme, the next one is consomme. The word consomme means literally completed or concentrated. In other words, a consomme is a strong concentrated stock or broth. In classical cuisine, this was all that was necessary for a stock to be called a consomme. In fact, two kinds were recognized: the ordinary or unclarified consomme and clarified consomme. Rule number one for preparing consomme is that the stock or broth must be strong, rich, and full flavored. Clarification is second in importance to strength. A good consomme with a mellow but full full aroma and plenty of body from the natural gelatin you can feel in your mouth is one of the great pleasure of fine cuisine. But clarification is an expensive and time-consuming procedure. And quite frankly, it's not worth the trouble if the soup is thin and watery. So the third one is the vegetable soups. Clear vegetable soups are made from a clear stock or broth, not necessarily clarified, with the addition of one or more vegetables and sometimes meat or poultry and or pasta or grains. Most vegetable soups are made from meat or poultry stock or broth. Meatless or vegetarian soups are made from vegetable broth or water. So the fourth one is so for the other clear soups, in addition to vegetable soups, many other clear or unthickened soups are known to various cuisines. They range from simple broths to elaborate concoctions of meats, vegetables, starches, and other ingredients. Although many contain vegetables, we don't classify them as vegetable soups because other ingredients are generally more prominent. So for the thick soups, so next is the thick soups. There are four types of thick soups. So the first one is the cream soups. Cream soups are soups thickened with roux, beurre mini, liaison, or other added thickening agents, plus milk and or cream. They are similar to velouté and bechamel sauces. In fact, they may be made by diluting and flavoring either of these two leading sauces. Cream soups are usually named after their major ingredient, as in cream of chicken or cream of asparagus. So curdling. Curdling is because cream soups contain milk or cream or broth or both. Curdling is a common problem. The heat of cooking and the acidity of many other soup ingredients are the causes of this curdling. Fortunately, we can rely on one fact to avoid curdling. Roux and other starch thickeners stabilize milk and cream. So the standards of quality for cream soups, first is the thickness, about the consistency of heavy cream, not too thick. The second is texture and the smoothness, no graininess or lumps except garnish, of course. The third is taste, the taste, distinct flavor of the main ingredient, asparagus in cream of asparagus, no starchy taste from uncooked roux. So the basic procedures for making cream soups is first to bring the white stock to a boil, then add vegetables and other flavoring ingredients. If desired, first slowly cook some or all of the vegetables in butter a few minutes to develop flavors. So skimmer it until all ingredients are tender. Thicken with roux, beurre mini, or other starch. Then skimmer it again until no starch taste remains. Then skim fat from surface. Then add hot or tempered milk or cream. A light cream sauce may be used if desired to avoid thinning the soup or curdling the milk. Then the last is to adjust the seasonings. So for the second type of thick soup is the puree soups. So puree soups are made by simmering dried or fresh vegetables, especially high starch vegetables in stock or water, then pureeing the soup. Thus, they are relatively easy to prepare. Puree soups are not as smooth and refined as cream soups, but are heartier and coarser in texture and character. So the basic procedures for making puree soups is to first sweet, marry porks or other fresh vegetables in fat, then add liquid, add dried or starchy vegetables, then simmer it until vegetables are tender. Fresh vegetables should be completely cooked but not overcooked or falling apart. Puree soup in a food mill or with an immersion blender variation is some soups made from dried legumes such as bean soup and lentil soup are not pureed but are served as is or slightly mashed. Puree soups are generally not bound with an added starch but rely on the starches present in vegetables. Some vegetable purees, however, settle out. These may be thickened with a little starch if desired. Then you'll add the cream if required. Then the last part is to adjust the seasonings. So the third type of thick soup is the bisque. So a bisque is a cream soup made with shellfish. At one time, bisques were thickened with rice, but today they're more frequently thickened with roux. Bisques are made basically like other cream soups, but they seem more complex because of the handling of the shellfish and the variety of flavoring ingredients often used. Expensive to prepare and rich in taste, they're considered as the luxury soups. So the fourth type of thick soup is the chowders. So chowders are chunky, hearty soups, so full of good things. They sometimes are more like stews cream soups or puree soups that are not pureed but left chunky. Categorization. However, most of them are based on fish or shellfish or vegetables, and most contain potatoes and milk or cream. So the next is the specialty and national of soups will be discussed furthermore by my groupmate, Mr. Janno Baloyo.
So, specialty and national soups. The first one is the cold soups. These are sometimes considered specialty soups rather, and in fact, some of them are. But many other popular cold soups such as jellied consomme, cold cream of cucumber soups, vichyssoise are simply cold versions of basic clear antique soups. Special soups are those that are made with unusual ingredient and are prepared by a distinctive method. So they are termed as national soups, such as there are numerous varieties of international soups such as cold, hot, thin, or thick, or etc. Examples are Louisiana gumbo from America, mock turtle soup from England, peanut soup from Africa, vichyssoise from France, shark fin soup China, torpedo soup Malaysia, tom yum goong from Thailand, sop buntut Indonesia, ramen soup in Japan. International soups are those soups which are originated from the different places and locality within the different countries. These soups are basically having a great tradition and that's why they are known by their country. Example of these are sinigang from the Philippines, turtle soup from England, French Union soup and bouillabaisse soup from France, and mulligatawny in India. Soto yam and soup buntut in Indonesia, minestrone soup in Italy, and miso soup in Japan, etc. Soups. Service of soup standards portion size. The appetizer portion is range to 6 to 8 ounces or 200 to 250 ml. The main course portion is the 10 to 12 ounce or 300 to 350 ml. The temperature of the soup. Serve hot soups in a hot cup or bowls. Serve cold soups in chilled bowls or even nested in a large bowl of crushed ice. Garnish. Soup garnish may be divided into three groups. First one is the garnishes in the soup. These groups garnish also includes meat, poultry, seafood, pasta products, and grains such as barley or rice. They are treated as part of the preparation or recipe itself, not as something added on. An elegant way to serve soup with a solid garnish is to arrange the garnish attractively in the bottom of soup plate. This plate is set before the diner, and then the soup is ladled, turning by the room staff. So, the major ingredients such as toppings. So second one is toppings. So clear soups are generally served without toppings to let the attractiveness of the clear broth and the carefully cut vegetables speak for themselves. Occasional exceptions are toppings of chopped parsley or chives. So thick soups, especially those that are all one color, are often decorated with a topping. Topping should be placed on the soup just before service so they won't sink or lose their fresh appearance. Their flavors must be appropriate to the soup. Do not overdo soup toppings because the food should be attractive in itself. The topping suggestion for thick soup include fresh herbs, dried herbs, Crotons, pine, julienne of vegetable, grated Parmesan cheese, toasted sliced almonds, crumbled bacon, grated cheese, paprika, shaved egg yolks, flavored butters, chopped or rice egg whites rather, flavored oils, sour cream, cream fraiche, or whipped cream. The last one is accompaniment. American soups are traditionally served with crackers in addition to the usual saltines. Other suggestions for crisp companies are Melba toast, cheese roast, corn chips, whole grain wafers, breadsticks, profiteroles, or tiny unsweetened cream puff shells. So that's all for our report. Thank you.
That's all for our presentation, stocks, soups, and sauces. We hope that you learned a lot and will be open to answering your questions after this. Thank you. Bye.